Can I go ahead and try that, Irene?
Yes.
Great. Hang on just a minute here.
There we go.
All right. Great, you are able to see my screen. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. My name is Katrine Siafa. I am the Sonoma County Regional Director for 10,000 Degrees, and I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Tracy Lanier, who is our Director of External Affairs. I am actually new to 10,000 Degrees. I just joined the organization in April of this year. Tracy has been with 10,000 Degrees for much longer. She was actually a part of the organization when we expanded from Marin into Sonoma County back in 2009. So I'm really glad she is here with me today. So a little bit about 10,000 Degrees. We are a leading California college success nonprofit organization with a mission to achieve educational equity by supporting students from low-income backgrounds to get to and through college. We believe in the capacity and potential of all students to succeed in college, and with the right support. So to that end, we serve annually about 10,000 students and families in 7 Bay Area counties, including Sonoma County. And that includes over 2,200 college students that are currently attending colleges anywhere in the United States. 80% of our students graduate within 6 years from a 4-year university, and that is compared to only 31% of their low-income student peers nationally. So that's quite a dramatic difference. Another number that I think is of note is that 10,000 Degrees alumni usually graduate with 85% less loan debt than the national average. And that's because of the comprehensive scholarship and financial aid support that we provide. Here you just see a little overview. Like I said, we're working currently with over 2,200 students in over 50 colleges across the United States. And so the way that it works is that if the student starts getting support from us in any of the 7 Bay Area counties that we serve, we will stay with them and wrap our support around them until they graduate with their bachelor's degree wherever they go. So our model is really based on, like I said, the belief that all students should have the opportunity and have the capacity to earn a college degree. To that end, we do not have a GPA requirement, unlike many other college success organizations. All students are welcome. We work with a lot of undocumented students. We help with not just with FAFSA completion, but also with DREAM Act completion. 100% of our students come from low-income backgrounds. 89% are students of color, and 85% will be the first in their family to attend college. What we do is really a whole array that starts with working with students in high school on college awareness and a college-going mindset, providing college knowledge and financial aid counseling and workshops, as well as helping with transfer from community college to a 4-year college, scholarship and financial aid management. And we've added a career readiness component where we help students pursue internships. We partner with local businesses and corporations and various counties on that as well. How do we do this? So the cornerstone of our model really is our near-peer fellowship model. Our fellows are recent college graduates who come from similar backgrounds as our students. 100% are from low-income backgrounds. Many are actually alumni of 10,000 Degrees themselves. And so that makes for a really great basis to build a trusting relationship with the students. They've just lived through their own experience. It's fresh in their minds. They can relate. And it's worked out really well for students to bond with the fellows. And also it's been a great opportunity. It's a great career opportunity for recent college grads to start their professional journey and give back. So normally in pre-COVID times, our fellows would actually be embedded in on high school campuses and college campuses around the Bay Area. Of course, as everybody, we had to pivot to virtual in March. And so now we support our students via text, Zoom, email, phone calls, as well as we've created a whole bunch of online resources, tutorials on financial aid, on how to submit to write your college application essays, and those are all available on our website and YouTube channel, free to everybody. So I'm also happy to share as a follow-up if you're interested to share more about those resources. So other than the fellowship model, the other cornerstone of our work is really our scholarship and financial aid management. Last year, across the 7 Bay Area counties that we serve, we awarded about $4 million in scholarships to students. They are generally renewable and need-based scholarships. And they're considered last dollar scholarships. So they kick in towards the very end when, the students know what else they have been awarded, and it gives the students the flexibility to apply our funds where they're needed most. In addition to the scholarship support, it's important to note that we really work a lot on financial aid, making sure that our students access all the free financial aid that they're eligible for. We are religious about FAFSA completion, have really high FAFSA completion rates with our students. And that results, as you can see, in us leveraging. Last year, we leveraged about over $17 million in total free financial aid for our students, including the $4 million in scholarships. And that, of course, in turn leads to our students graduating, taking on less loan, 85% less loan debt than the average college student. So here in Sonoma County, we have been in Sonoma County since 2009, and over the last 10 years, we've provided over $5 million in scholarships to Sonoma County students attending college anywhere in the United States. Last year, that was alone about $800,000 to 584 Sonoma County students, as well as over 79 financial aid, FAFSA completion, and college knowledge workshops for high school students across the county. So normally, again, in pre-COVID times, these workshops would take place at local high schools. I believe the last one that we were able to hold in person was in fall of 2019 at Windsor High School. Now it's all moved online. And while that brings its own challenges, the one bright spot of that is that we've actually been able to reach more students by bringing everything online. We are, in addition to that, also continuing our one-on-one support for last year. It was about 154 students at our 8 partner high schools in Sonoma County. Again, that's now all being done virtually. And we also work with students at Sonoma State University and Santa Rosa Junior College. SRJC is actually our largest cohort of students at any given site. And a nice thing to note is that many of our Sonoma County, I believe actually all of our Sonoma County team members, managers, and fellows are all Sonoma County high school grads and alumni of 10,000 Degrees that have gone to college and come back to their home community and now are serving local students here in their community. So Cloverdale, we actually have, I'm blocking my own screen here. We have awarded over $148,000 in scholarships to 42 Cloverdale students since 2014. And you can see the universities that students are currently attending that are supported by 10,000 Degrees. So it's a whole range of schools that they go to. I actually wanted to share just a little anecdote with you. The majority of scholarship support for Cloverdale students actually comes through the Carlisle Van Ornum Scholarship Fund at Community Foundation, Sonoma County. I'm curious, do you know who Carlisle Van Ornum was? Anybody? Well, I didn't either until now. I researched it for this meeting, and I came across a little article in the Cloverdale Reveal from 1997. And that was the year that Carlisle Van Ornum passed away. Apparently he was a longtime Cloverdale resident who was initially an ornithologist working with the California State Department of Fish and Game for most of his life, who then retired in Cloverdale, apparently lived in an apartment behind the Pix Drive-In and was often seen sweeping in front of the drive-in. And when he passed away, nobody knew that until then that he had been donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to Cloverdale High School over the course of his life anonymously, as well as other North County schools, and left behind this legacy that is now a fund in perpetuity at Sonoma Community Foundation, managed by 10,000 Degrees, in support of Cloverdale students who are pursuing vocational scholarships. So that's where the support for Cloverdale students mostly comes from, and we're really proud to be managing that fund. So with that, how we can help now, our application for 2021 scholarships is currently open. It is open until March 2nd. And we encourage all Cloverdale students in need to apply. Again, we have no GPA requirements, and we are happy to help with FAFSA completion and DREAM Act completion as needed. All students need to do is visit our website and fill out the scholarship application. There's a lot of information on there about the different scholarships and about our process and programs. And yeah, we hope that we can continue to be a resource for your community and for your schools. So with that, that is the end of our little presentation, and I'd like to open it up to questions. And thank you so much for your interest in the services that we provide to our students.
First, I would like to see if Preston and Todd could speak some about the Carlisle scholarship. Were you aware of that with 10,000 Degrees?
I know the 10,000 Degrees very well. I know several students personally, as well as many anecdotally that apply this. Our teachers and our counseling staff put this scholarship out there. It's very well known at our high school campus where it's applicable. And yeah, all our teachers make sure students are aware of this, as does the counselor. So we have, well, I probably shouldn't name names, but I know many people that have benefited from this. And it's one of the pluses of this program is that in contrast to most of the local scholarships that our students can get, most local scholarships are kind of a 1 year, one time number. And I can speak from experience with my own son. You know, most of those are amounts that are very helpful the first year and then they're gone. Whereas with 10,000 Degrees, you can space it out. It typically is spread out over your 4-year undergraduate degree. So it's a bigger scholarship than many of the other local ones. So yes, I do know the program well.
Okay. Oh, had you worked with the program before, Betha? You're mute.
Sorry about that, you guys. I have worked with them in other high school settings, and they've always been a great organization for our students because of the way they scaffold the process and really create this ongoing, continuity of support. So I am familiar with them, but of course, not yet in Cloverdale.
Okay. And since this is new to me, because I had not worked in Sonoma County, and I really would like to make sure that there's a great emphasis on applying for this program, especially since there's not a GPA requirement. And sometimes we have students who don't flourish until much later, as we all know. And also there's even though it says that it's due in March, I do know, and we have seen that in this committee with the most recent application for student liaisons, that sometimes students don't complete applications thoroughly. And what might take a little time to some students, it might take a longer time for other students. And especially convincing parents of dreamers, because they're afraid of any repercussions that may come about. So, and in the spirit of collaboration, I invited Catherine to the meeting because I want to make sure that we are all on the same foot in terms bringing the word out, assisting the students, and promoting not only among those who are the most high achieving members of the high school, because those always get the opportunities, but we need to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring it here is because I would like to bring it to council also. And Catherine had mentioned that we can have some students give some quick presentations, testimonials, to be able to encourage students to go ahead and apply. And for all of us in the community, especially those in council, to start promoting among their circles and among the organizations that they work with. So, sometimes these programs come and they only go through the counselors, but if more people know about it.
I'll just jump in for a minute, Marta. These don't. Having been a teacher at the high school and married to a teacher and now involved as a board member, I've seen this in the daily bulletin. It goes out to every student when it comes up. The teachers promoted, it's especially promoted by the senior English teachers who have every senior student that's able to apply for this. And knowing most of our English teachers personally, I know that there's a huge push in our school to make sure that dreamers, everybody has access to this. Where I've been working personally with 2 dreamers this year, trying to make sure that they stay on track, because there's scholarships like this that will be available to them, that if they work closely with our teachers and counselors, they'll be getting full rides practically anywhere they want. So these are promoted. Our schools pushing these. It goes out during the normal school year. It goes out every single day. It's announced to every single student. The student council has just re-envisioned their bulletin, because as you know, kids aren't sitting in class anymore right now.
Right.
So they're not a captive audience getting a daily bulletin. So the student council is currently re-envisioning the bulletin, and it's going to be basically Zoomcast, I'll call it, to every single student every single day. So they're setting up a new system to get this information out to all our students. So both student government, the counseling office, and the teachers work very hard to promote these opportunities and disseminate information equitably into all.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure that that is so. However, there are parents and there that do not believe that their child should go ahead and apply for these scholarships, and it is something that I have come to find out as we reach out to people to come and get food on Mondays. Many people don't come to the food pantry. Many people don't come to get food because they are afraid that this is going to impact their applications and so on. And even when I was distributing mochilas, backpacks with supplies for school, many parents didn't want because they were afraid that that would be a government help, even though it wasn't. But this is how it's perceived. And
yeah, and that's again something the school is constantly we're constantly trying to combat that misinformation.
yes,
because it's beneficial for not only our school funding, but for our individual students, that if they will self-indicate their socioeconomic status, which allows them to qualify for these things, it's a boon for our district. It's a boon for them to get scholarships. There's many scholarships, many college applications. They get fee waivers if they've signed up for free and reduced lunch. So yes, anything you and the city can do to help combat that misinformation, because it has been since I arrived here in '98, we have been fighting that misinformation in Spanish, in English, with community outreach again and again, because the reality is that if you do get on those rolls, you will have better access to scholarships, funding, and acceptance to universities. So yeah, the school knows that for sure.
yes.
And they're constantly trying to educate families, because it would be very helpful to the district as well as them individually as they matriculate.
Yes, Tracy.
Oh, yes. So hello, everybody. I'm Tracy with 10,000 Degrees, and just really excited to share more about our work. So grateful for you all who spoke positively, and we definitely would love to do more for Cloverdale. Given that we're virtual now, our team did discuss, if it would be helpful over the next coming months, we could host a virtual parents' night in Spanish around financial aid. That's financial aid for undocumented students is one of our kind of areas of expertise. So I'm happy to work with whomever would be best at the school. But once that's scheduled, Marta, any of the community outreach, because that's really how we get to the families, right? Is social, well, for our students, it's social media, but for parents, it's so much of that community outreach. So we'd be happy to brainstorm, getting the word out in the future. So just a thought, if it's helpful and complements what the district is already doing, we'd be happy to find a way to help with that, or financial aid applications this year in particular.
Thank you. Betha, do you have any comments?
I think as I'm listening to the conversation, I think, Marta, your comment regarding parent concerns, either related to immigration status or all that's a broader concern, that we need families to access certain services in order to get those services. We need to know which families have the need. But I think communicating to parents that this won't have a negative impact on you, we don't share information with other agencies and so on, is probably something that I'll follow up on with site leadership, just to make sure. And I think, it really is a group effort to make sure that every student who qualifies knows about the program. So I'll bring it up to both our counselor and to, the administrators at the high school, just to find out what we do on the ground. But Preston and Todd have been in this district longer. Preston is taught at the high school, and this is a program that has had a long history in the county. So I'm glad to hear it has roots here. One of the things we're struggling with right now is just getting families to do things like fill out the free and reduced lunch form, because that documents the percentage of students we have who qualify. But right now we're giving lunches away to any family that needs them without that kind of paperwork. So we're kind of in this catch-22. We don't want barriers, but because we've removed barriers, we're not getting the documentation we need. So it's this dance right now, especially under these, conditions where we aren't face to face with every student, tapping them on the shoulder and saying, oh my gosh, you really need to apply for this. So that's the other thing, is just how we're personalizing that outreach right now.
Yeah, sometimes, parents are more receptive to people who do not represent the school. And that's what we've been finding out in some of the community organizations that are beginning to come up. Right now, there is the new development of what's called Familia Sana, healthy family, and family heals. It's a word game with the word sana, which means healthy, and it also means healing, either adjective or verb. And we have many parents that have kids in our system. And those are the ones that, in addition to everything else that's being done, we want to make sure to reach those parents. So, Mr. Mayor or David or Kevin, any other comments? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mata. What a wonderful program this is. And, I had a couple of questions prior to our meeting, and thank you. You've answered them. I wanted to know how the school district was involved with the program. I also wanted to know how many Cloverdale take advantage of this. And Preston, from what you're saying, it's quite a few. I like the idea of Tracy. I think you said something about hosting a PTA meeting that would. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm getting a flash here that my internet is cutting out. I like the idea of doing a parent Zoom conference. I think that would be great. And Marta, if we can squeeze it on the schedule for a city council presentation in maybe November or December, we're limited to the number of meetings, but we can plan on going ahead and doing that. But let's see how the agendas roll out. And is there going to be
I think just a second, Gus. I think that Katrine said that we have 42 Cloverdale students.
I was going to say, I think currently we have about 20, but over time it's been 42 students.
Yeah. And I'd like to see our student liaisons get a little involved with this as well in the presentation. I mean, that would be an ideal project for them. Also, is the school district going to roll this presentation out to their school board?
It's not something that we've agendized at the moment, just because we've had a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly something that we could. I think the most meaningful way to do that would be to have students or former students come back and talk about what they're doing. I think making that connection to our students would be meaningful for the board. We can certainly talk about that.
Thank you. David, do you have any questions, or Todd, Kevin?
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions. I just want to thank Katrin and Tracy for their presentation and for the coordination to bring it to the Joint City School Subcommittee. And of course, if it's valuable to provide a similar presentation to the Cloverdale City Council, I'll be more than happy to coordinate with you, but it might be more valuable if we coordinate just in getting some outreach material to the community. And if there's any information you'd like to push out via our social media sites, we can certainly help with that.
Great.
I think all those resources are definitely useful and necessary. Todd?
I don't have anything new to say other than thank you. This is a great program. Our school definitely has always taken advantage of it, and our students benefit from it, and we love it, and would definitely like a presentation that would include students from the past to come back and show us what it did for them in their life. It'd be great to see.
Great.
I do have a question, Catherine, and I think I mentioned this before. This is either for a trade school, community college, or four-year college, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because that's very important. All right, Kevin, if you don't have any comments, I'll just go ahead and thank you for your presentation. We'll follow up and make sure that it continues to be a successful program here in Cloverdale.
Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate all of your time.
Yes,
All right,
thank you.
you have a good evening.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
So the next item, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask if there was anybody out there.
No,
Irene?
not this time, Chair.
Okay, there are no additional participants in this meeting tonight. Okay, so the reason we have community service hours for high school student checklist of activities, it's because even though you're virtual, there's still a lot of community activities that are going on. And we've had some students participate in distribution of food and delivery of food. And we would like to make sure that students get appropriate credit for their service to the community. But we also don't necessarily have clear what is all that is open for them to participate in, and any rules that you may have given COVID and so on. So we would appreciate from the superintendent or the board members if they could chime in into this.
Well, I can speak to it, and if Preston and Todd have anything to add, again, as someone who's new, I'm going to give you my understanding, and there might be things that I'll learn as I go. But our requirements are very wide open. Just so everyone on the committee knows, the subject of community service hours as a graduation requirement is right now on a back burner, with the possibility of it moving to a front burner in November, because it may be very difficult for every student every year to finish or complete the requirement. You're right that there are different options that if we get creative, we can probably make sure every student has an opportunity. Our requirements are very flexible. One of the only stipulations is a parent cannot sign off on the hours. It needs to be an outside agency. What you're suggesting, Marta, would absolutely work as community service. So students typically do their hours through a nonprofit. Doesn't mean it's the only way to do it, but that is typically the best. The organizations that qualify are typically nonprofits. But as an alternative, students can also do a job shadow or an internship in lieu of doing community service. So there are some different options. Under these circumstances, we might decide to get even more creative. The question of how every student will meet it for every year during pandemic conditions is something we're thinking about right now. But what you're describing, Marta, would absolutely qualify.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we didn't know what were the rules, and we want to make sure that we don't tell youngsters, oh, this would probably help with your community service hours, and then come to find out that no, that's not possible.
Shouldn't be a problem unless, yeah, if you're paying them.
That's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty wide open, and every student has those rules printed out.
Okay. All right. Kids have been a bit aloof, and I understand, and now more so because there's so much that is demanded of them that it's not the typical. But we're definitely working on emphasizing that their work is not necessarily in vain. I mean, yes, we want for them to develop the heart for it, but also to provide them some sort of bonus for it. So thank you. Do you have any questions, David or Mr. Mayor?
But Madam Chair, I do have a question for Superintendent McLean. Superintendent, you mentioned that internships might qualify. I'd be interested in just understanding, the amount of hours that a student would have to put in. One of my professional goals is to familiarize students at the high school level with local government, because I think there's a tremendous amount of career opportunities, and to the extent that we can find interested students who might want to do an internship with the city, I think that would be fantastic. And if there was just some guidelines around number of hours, what they can and can't do would be really useful, because maybe we could get multiple students to help with projects or activities.
It's a minimal requirement. It's 15 hours. So it can always, of course, be more than that, but they're required to do 15 hours per year.
Okay.
So you might have a student who does, an hour a week or a couple of hours a week through their entire high school career. So they really become familiar over time. In those cases, I would imagine some students would work beyond that 15 hours.
Got it. And is there a certain number of hours maximum per week that they can volunteer?
I don't think so, as long as it doesn't interfere with school, sort of like a work permit. I don't think that's been an issue, but I can find that out. But I think it's a non-issue, so it hasn't been defined like that, David.
Got it. Thank you for your response, Madam Chair. That's the only question I had.
Okay.
Yeah, for students that are active, this is just a super low threshold. I'm sure Todd's kids are in the same boat that mine are, that within their first year, they technically had 3 times the number of hours that they needed for their high school career. It's pretty minimal, and it would be great if we can get kids that aren't necessarily involved doing this. That's the biggest obstacle that the high school has is the kids that are involved. This is just a no-brainer for them. It's a super low threshold for those kids, but trying to engage kids that aren't normally involved, that's where the difficulty is. And sometimes a kid finds something that really speaks to them. I mean, we have had kids that have joined the Explorers with the fire department and gotten their hours through there, and then all of a sudden they become very engaged. And I could see, we could probably sit down for 30 minutes and come up with enough things through the city that would engage kids with all kinds of interests to easily get their hours in. And yeah, there's definitely no limit. And a lot of times once if there's an internship or some sort of thing, once they've engaged in their volunteer hours, they could move on to some sort of paid hours or something. So yeah, any ideas? Teachers are constantly pushing this, the administration and the counselors as well at the high school. So any opportunities run through the counseling office is probably most appropriate, and they'll be advertised out to, like I said, that bulletin, which is just getting online again. There used to be daily announcements. If a volunteer organization like Rotary needed somebody for an event or things like that, it would be announced in the bulletin. So if anything like that comes up with the city, even on a short-term basis, now that we're getting some of that going again, the message can get out pretty quick.
Yeah, that's really great, Preston, because right now I am working with the library, and we are trying to establish some neighborhood libraries in the areas that are a little bit detached in the county and also here in the city from access to the library. And that moves us next to see, which is to see if we can have a partnership with the library and the high school maker space to see if we could make some of these libraries, some of the cabinetry and so on for these particular project. That is still in the making. The library still has to get back to me, but we already went to see the neighborhoods where we feel they could be useful. And I spoke with David, and we spoke about Clark's Park also to have as one of those community libraries. So this is one of the reasons why we're also following up to community service hours. David, did you want to comment on that?
Madam Chair, happy to comment. You know, we're seeing this concept, you know, develop across California and certainly other states where there's, you know, mini libraries placed in various locations. Often they're placed on kind of private property. You know, individuals who want to support a location where folks can, you know, put free books. Councilmember Cruz approached me about, you know, putting in a library box at Clark Park to kind of serve the Tarman neighborhood. And you know, there's some really kind of neat concepts out there where you see these like little mini libraries be placed. And I could see this as an opportunity to have a, you know, a little public facing library spot where folks might be able to grab a book and, you know, sit down at the park and then, you know, maybe enjoy reading, or also to for the Tarman neighborhood, you know, have access to, you know, free literature. And so we began discussing an opportunity to maybe do a collaboration where there's, you know, service organizations and maybe students could work together on a library box, you know, starting really from, you know, the design process, looking what it might look like. You know, maybe if there's someone, I think this is what your idea was, Councilmember and Chair Cruz, was, you know, actually familiarizing yourself with the kind of construction trades or the trades and how you would actually construct this, and then moving forward with actually promoting it with signage and putting in, you know, at the park and filling it up with books. So that's kind of the concept. It's seemed like it's been successful where it's been utilized in other locations, in, you know, certainly in Sonoma County, and I think the idea was to see if we might be able to, through a partnership, put one at Clark Park.
Any response, feedback?
I think maybe a proposal, like kind of an RFI with the basic parameters, and that could be put out to the maker teacher and see if he has room for that in his curriculum. I know that we did things with the Army Corps of Engineers before. They did the sculptures that were placed around the city a couple years ago. So I think if you guys could put a little proposal together, that could be forwarded to the maker teacher to take a look at.
Great idea. I don't see why we couldn't do some collaboration like that.
Okay. Yes, we're waiting on the library because they're also part of the team, and we want to make sure that the whole picture is presented. And as soon as we get the total response from them, you'll definitely see one. So and then again, if you have any suggestions for us or any additional ideas, please bring them forward so that we can go ahead and add them to the proposal.
I'll just make a quick comment real quick, Marta, if you don't mind.
Yes,
with the engineers, what we did through the makerspace, it worked really well. And what happened was the Army Corps would supply all the materials so the students would have things to work with and would basically get the labor for free for things. So that's through them. And it gave us, you know, the school year's worth of materials, and they learned that's just an idea for if you're looking at how to make it happen.
Oh yes, that is one of the ideas, to seek the materials to be brought to the school so that the school doesn't necessarily have to engage in any expenses or us in the city. Of course, if there are kids that write a proposal for a community project and it involves this, it would be great too. Gus, did you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I think it's a great program to work with the school on. My concern is, of course, what materials will be put in these remote boxes. I'm always concerned about security. You know, unfortunately, we live in a world where people think certain things are funny when in fact they're really not. So I'd hate to see those boxes being stuffed with inappropriate material, and hopefully we'll be addressing how often people go by and look at the boxes to make sure that it's materials that we want folks reading.
Oh, definitely. And you know, right now there are several boxes throughout town, and we haven't had any problems. At the same time, one of the reasons to do this is to engage community people into, you know, taking pride into a project that they are part of. There's one particular one that has hours, it's 8 to 8, and somebody is in front of somebody's house who, you know, and she unlocks it and then she locks it. And we might not have that in other places because the other ones in town do not have a lock, but we definitely understand that. And by getting people in the community engaged in the project, I think would be good. And at the same time, the librarian said that she would come with certain regularity to monitor what books are needed, what books are there, if they're moving or not, and even, exchanging them and so on, because of the collaboration will be also with friends of the library that are the ones that provide. So we've been talking a lot about this, and yes, that concern came about, Gus.
Okay.
And the same with, some people have been talking about the boxes for food, that it's happening throughout the country. And I saw several of those in San Francisco this weekend. So it's just like I had not seen it, and I finally saw it, and it's a good initiative. Okay, if we don't have any other comments on this, I'll open to the public. Are there any comments or anybody requesting to speak, Irene?
No, and at this time, we do not have any meeting attendees.
Okay, thank you. So standing items, any changes on the food resources for students, Superintendent?
I'll just share that we have, I think since our last meeting, started home delivery of lunches in addition to pickup. We have quite a few staff who are doing home visits as well to check in with our students and make sure that they are receiving meals. So if they are not, then we put them on our delivery list. We've been taking meals to them. I basically have told staff, never go empty-handed. So we always go prepared. Again, meals are available to any child 18 and under. It doesn't have to be a student who's enrolled in our district or even a student enrolled in school. Could be younger than that, could have graduated last year, as long as they're 18 or younger. So we continue to do that. We are delivering daily to every single student who attends the Boys and Girls Club, breakfast and lunch on a daily basis. And we're really doing everything in our power to make sure our families have access to food. As far as technology goes, so we continue to add hotspots. Again, we have staff going directly to students. There are just some areas that don't have connectivity because they don't have cell service, but we have enough devices for every single family. After the last meeting, I think we had to order some more, but if a family doesn't have access, the issue is either that we haven't gotten to them for one reason or another, which at this point shouldn't be the case. We do have an employee who's out on leave.
My apologies. I couldn't hear what you said.
We have employee out on leave, and that slowed down our tech department a little bit, but not that much. So pretty much as long as students have cell service, they should be connected and have devices.
Okay, but there are no outstanding problems with areas of access?
Like I said, if they live in an area without adequate cell service,
Mhm.
even a hotspot becomes a problem. So
Right.
in those cases, really bringing students back to school, we're in the process of setting up small group instruction. That would be the next step. Last year, we had students who came to picnic tables at school and worked from there. So, you know, we're preparing to do that on a more formal level. But you know, that piece is the only part outside of our control.
Actually, that is something that David and I were discussing last week. So David, could you please chime into this, since you know how we can fund and when and so on?
Certainly, Madam Chair, and you're talking about the Wi-Fi access?
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Here in town.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, at the previous Joint City School Subcommittee just provided the update on some possible locations for expanding Wi-Fi access for the community. We talked, really about five locations, including, the regional library or Cloverdale Library, and setting up additional access outside, so that could either be in the front of the library or possibly in the parking lot. Looking at expanding Wi-Fi at the Chamber of Commerce, and they're real interested in a more robust Wi-Fi service there. There's a pretty large open sidewalk area in front of the Chamber and City Hall. Additional areas included partnership with the Senior Center. Also, there is the outdoor atrium and outdoor area near the Performing Arts Center. And then last but not least, there is the plaza outside or immediately outside the police station. And, I guess one of the things we was looking for from this subcommittee is, is there interest in any of those locations? And if so, is there kind of a priority that we should dedicate, staff time and resources to helping to improve Wi-Fi at, those locations, in terms of a priority that you think would be, beneficial to expand Wi-Fi access for, with a focus on bringing that access to the students within the Cloverdale school system.
David, is it appropriate to mention the Plank area also?
Absolutely. I think Councilmember Cruz, you also suggested that maybe there's an opportunity to, partner with local businesses, including Plank Coffee. And I haven't had that conversation yet with Marnie or Mike, the owners, but I think there is that opportunity to engage with the owners and determine if they would be willing to support, the utilization of their outdoor area for use by students. But I guess be interested in hearing from the subcommittee. Is there interest in the city taking a leadership role in trying to expand this Wi-Fi access for the community and for the students?
I'm just going to jump in here and say yes. And one of the main reasons is that for a number of students, even after, let's just project into the future, when and if, when we get through this, I think giving students access in multiple locations improves the likelihood that they're going to engage in school-related activities wherever they are. If they don't have a place to study at home, having another place to go. So I have seen students at Plank during the school day on Chromebooks. So they're already doing that. Maybe they have to, buy a beverage, but they're there. I think the library is very easy for us just because it's adjacent. It's almost adjacent, I should say. And the real question is, does the school district, do we need things like picnic tables or some outdoor furniture that enables students to use the library as a facility? We have picnic tables set up near the district office. We have them close to our school, campuses, and we have had students come and use Wi-Fi near there, but I'd like to increase the number of locations where they could do that. And I think the city is better situated than the school district to facilitate that.
I have a comment about the library. Right now, during COVID, I don't think the library location is a good one because people are driving in to pick up books. They cannot go in, but they do come in to pick up. And I don't know if that would be too congested. That's something that would have to be discussed with the library director. But this is what I have observed that might not make it, as feasible. However, the park across from the school might be another possible location.
We already have, are you talking about Clayster Park?
Yes.
We already have picnic tables there and the students have access to our Wi-Fi network. So that is an option.
Yes, but we really would like to hear what would be your preferred locations of the ones that we mentioned, or if you have others in mind.
Places where students are, able to access via public transportation, places that are desirable to them. So the area around Plank is a good idea, around the plaza. Places where there's, a reasonable amount of covered seating, or so some of these places I might not even know yet. And they may not be places that, I love the idea of the senior center if it means that students might go there and have, kind of dual duty, do community service time and access the internet. I'd like to work out some partnerships like that. But a lot of what we're talking about right now, my concern is that it's, we're heading into, it's fall and we're heading into winter, and it's going to be difficult for students to access because they're not going to want to sit outside in the cold or the rain. So that's the downside. But in a long term, if we're talking about this long term, my goal is places that are desirable for teenagers to be. So if there are, if we can develop a partnership with Plank or the public library, that kids can, use those. I think kids at a normal time could use the library. So, if there's a way for us right now to put in picnic tables with umbrellas at the back of the parking lot, those are the kinds of things that to me seem like they're innovative or they're problem solving, might keep them far enough away from, drive-through book pickup or drop off. We certainly, can't monitor every single location. But if we're looking at this as a bigger community solution, then, I would say the downtown is probably the area to focus on.
Yes, and I agree with you, Betha. And at the same time, it gives us an opportunity to make sure that we talk with police chief for when kids are in the plaza, that we don't have some of the problems that with the homeless and some of the people who use drugs or drink or smoke. So that will be an excuse to monitor the plaza perhaps a little bit more, but with, true reason that we want to make sure that it is a safe place for our youth and our children. Any other comments? Complaints, suggestions? Any other places that you might think that would be appropriate? Because, we have some areas that are quite far from downtown and not all kids drive and so on. So anything else? Kevin, Todd, Gus? All
Well,
right.
I think having it downtown is also something that would be beneficial for the city as well as a sort of an economic development idea. So, if the superintendent likes the downtown area. I think it serves both the school as well as, you know, our needs as well.
Yes, we could probably talk to Pigs and say, if kids come, give them a discount or something, you know, and that might encourage them to come more often, even though I see more kids there than I expected because they're so expensive, but it does work. All right, any public attendance and comments? Irene?
None, Chair.
Okay. All right. So if there are no more comments, I would say that we would need to talk to Plank to see if we can join. And perhaps, you know, the way the weather is going, the fall might be a little bit further down the road, and we might be able to have something sooner than later. So that's something that David and Kevin would have to look into and let us know. So is that a good direction, group, subcommittee?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, thank you. And then COVID-19 safety and prevention within the community. Who wants to address that? David or Kevin?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to kickstart the discussion.
Okay.
I think just I'd like to, you know, plug the initiative that the city is currently leading up, the Cloverdale or the Resilient Cloverdale Initiative. The initiative has really been focused on addressing, you know, the potential impact of wildfires in our community, particularly, you know, this week experiencing, you know, the red flag warning and, you know, just the real dry conditions and concern around fire. But as part of that effort, we've also been addressing the issue of COVID in our community and the related impacts, particularly around food safety, but also education and information to members of our community, particularly targeting, you know, the Latinx community where the COVID seems to be, you know, particularly impacting. And so I think there's just a real opportunity to, you know, continue to work together with the school district, and have invited Superintendent McLean to the Resilient Cloverdale, you know, our kind of our weekly meetings, and just, you know, when the opportunity presents itself for the school district to, you know, participate in that conversation. I think it may lead to additional opportunities for collaboration, particularly on the information side, just making sure that we're getting information out to our entire community about, you know, some of the safe practices that are recommended to address COVID. I think that's what's critical. And there's, you know, a whole effort right now by the county to expand resources to address the impacts of COVID, particularly providing rental assistance and economic assistance to, you know, families that are, you know, experiencing impacts from COVID. And I think through their children who attend the school district might be an avenue that we can pursue, trying to get, you know, more information out about some of those resources, and also around some of the educational information that might be beneficial to the families that are affected by COVID. Madam, that's all I have. Kind of really just a plug for Resilient Cloverdale, but also opportunities for collaboration for information.
And we do have a meeting tomorrow at noon, correct?
That is correct.
Yes. So you're always welcome to join the meetings. They're open to everybody. And of course, you can provide any input that you see would impact the school community. And, you know, I want to make sure that you understand that I am working beyond the city limits. I'm also working with students who are in the county, who are part of the Cloverdale School District. So I'm not limiting my service as council member just to the kids who live in the city, but also to all of the Cloverdale School District community. Are there any questions regarding COVID-19? Anything else to be commented on that? Okay, so then if there's no public public comments, Irene, we can move on to update proposed housing projects by Kevin.
Madam Chair, probably we've been talking about this one for a while, but it actually did finally come in as an application, which is the Dry Creek Rancheria project on the south part of our sphere of influence, not currently in town, just south of the school district's property on the south. It's 25 units. It's for elder members of the tribe. It probably wouldn't have a big impact on the school in terms of additional enrollment, only because it is set aside for seniors, although it will be subject to the school impact fees. So we just got that in last week and we're reviewing it, and there'll be public hearings regarding it. Other than that, we pretty much are, we haven't received any additional or new applications. Again, the apartment buildings across from Ace Hardware are planned to go to the Planning Commission in November for their second hearing. But other than that, those are our current applications we're processing.
Madam Chair, if I can add to Kevin's presentation on the Dry Creek Rancheria project, that project is currently located outside the city. It is within our sphere, but it's immediately adjacent to and south of the property owned by the school district. And in order for us to annex that property, which they're applying considerable pressure for us to move forward on, and be consistent with the LAFCO requirements relative to not annexing without creating an island. The school district's property becomes critical. They've provided indication to us that they have your support in terms of, my knowledge, we have not received any documentation from the school district indicating your support or your authorization to include the school district's property within the annexation. And so that's just something that I think ultimately would be needed. And we see it as really their role to play, to have that conversation with you as the property owners. But I want to make sure that we bring it up here, that you're aware of that critical connection between their project and your property. Because really we can't, we can process their application all day long, but they really can't annex until the school district either agrees or doesn't agree with them to be part of their annexation proposal. But they are indicating, I think, Kevin, if I'm correct, that to you that they have your support, meaning the school district support, to be brought into the city. But we don't have any real communication from you directly to that effect.
Well, in all fairness, I haven't combed through the application. We just got it last week. So there is supposedly something in there from the school district signing on to this larger annexation, which would include their project and your property as well. I don't know if you guys know anything about it, but I will certainly go through there and make sure. And if it's not in there, as David said, we'll have to have a discussion whether you are, wanting to be annexed in. And it's a good opportunity with this project moving forward for them to sort of handle some of the paperwork for you. So I'm not sure if it's.
Is there any background information that you may have, Betha, or?
Anything that you have in the application, I believe, preceded me. but Todd and Preston may have something to add. I haven't been approached since I arrived, but it's quite possible it happened last spring.
Preston or Todd? Are you aware of any conversations with the past superintendent?
I vaguely recall possibly having a presentation about this, but I'd have to go back and look at notes. We definitely want to work with all those developments down there, in concert with the city, having the Baumgartner development develop fields and outdoor space on our property, and the space we're willing to dedicate for a dog park for the city right beside the Baumgartner development, and with any needs that the Rancheria has. So we're definitely open to looking at that. They all kind of work together. Okay. And I think it could be very, very beneficial for our community.
Thank you. Any comments, Gus?
Well, I don't want to get into it here, but I'm not so sure they do work together. I think we're looking at a separate issue here. The fields and the dog park, that's something that I guess Baumgartner's developer you've been talking to about. But the annexation of the Cloverdale Rancheria, I would think would afford the school district an easy path for annexation at this point in time, rather than having to split those expenses and come back in later for it. So.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, we started working with Joe Paula years ago with the dog park and the fields down there, and it seemed very beneficial to the whole community to have those, especially having a lower socioeconomic development going in there, and those kids really needing fields and such accessible to them and open space.
I totally agree with you. It's a question of the city would love to have that happen, and I don't know barely where to do that. The developer of the Baumgarten property is the one that's really negotiating with them, accomplish that. So.
Yeah, that's something that would eventually come to the planning commission, and you would have to have the conversations with the developers for coming to us. So
and we'll have to look into the annexation portion from the school district as state property. I'm not sure exactly how it affects school districts. So I don't know the policies around that. So we'd have to look into that a little bit and see what the ins and outs of it are. I have no idea at this
that
point.
might be for your legal department.
Well,
we
for a
contact
different
Towers a lot.
department, but we know who to talk to about it.
Okay, any public comments? If there's no further comment on this, Irene?
And Chair.
Okay, so all the other two are on standby. The skate park that's on standby, but there's no information on that. Is that correct, Kevin?
That's correct. We haven't made any moves yet. No.
Okay. So announcements. I would like David to go ahead and talk about the monies that will be coming to the school district.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And you caught me off guard there for a second. The City Council received an update at their meeting last week on the refunding of the tax allocation bonds by the Cloverdale Successor Agency. The bonds were refinanced, and we closed just a little over a month ago, or a little less than a month ago, with historically low interest rates. What that means for the city and the taxing entities is that instead of paying the bondholders the savings that was generated from the refinancing will go back to the taxing districts. The school system is the largest recipient. It was identified at about 50% of the property tax proceeds go to the school system, a portion of which goes to specifically to Cloverdale Unified School District. So the good news is that the school district will be a beneficiary of those additional savings that would have otherwise went to the bondholders. And I have that data that I can send the presentation that was provided to the council to Superintendent McLean, and then you can at least see additional what additional revenue you might expect to see by way of residual receipts from the former redevelopment agency come to you through the county. So it was an effort that was supported by the city council, and it's going to generate savings for the city, but the largest share of the savings does go to the school system, and then a portion goes to the Cloverdale Fire District as well. So really worked well for the community in terms of generating considerable savings over the remaining life of the bonds, which is 2038. Of course, once the bonds are fully paid, all of the revenue that otherwise flowed to pay off those bonds will then would be allocated to the taxing entities. So that's will really be kind of the final end to redevelopment in Cloverdale.
Talking about, which was mentioned in the meeting, $2 million for the school.
Wonderful.
So that's a very good, healthy number.
Absolutely.
Any other announcements? Okay, if we don't have any other announcements, I would like to move to future agenda items. And one of the agenda items that I have is a presentation for the subcommittee on, let me see, I want to say the correct name of the organization, Drug Abuse Alternative Centers. They do provide services to a variety of schools and youth in the county. And I would like to see if we can have a presentation by them in November.
And since we have our own group that does work with our community around drug abuse, is there a particular outcome? Is it just informational?
It's informational, and also to see what possibilities of joint efforts could be with the school district.
Actually, maybe before we schedule that, I would like to suggest, because of the holidays and we have a pretty intense meeting schedule for the next month and a half, I think we should probably have our next meeting in January. We typically had been meeting quarterly. We picked it up for a while, but I would propose that we go back to our quarterly meeting, especially with our schedule that's upcoming here.
We did this because of COVID and the fires, that we wanted to have more communication. They don't have to be this long. The meetings don't have to be this long. We could rework the schedule, but I think I would like to continue to meet on regular basis, given the health situation of the county and our area. What do you say, the rest of you?
Well, I'd put a
And
motion
we
out
could-
there for discussion. I'd move that we go back to a quarterly meeting in January and reassess at that point.
Madam Chair, if I could, I think if their schedule is so heavy that they really can't do justice to a meeting, we probably should just wait and do it at the beginning of the year.
Now, what about situations that may arise? Will we be able to call emergency meetings if necessary to include you?
Anytime there's an emergency, the school district is here for the city.
Well,
Yeah,
you know, and not necessarily emergency per se, but pressing issues that we might need to address.
I think that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
I can even just keep that space on my calendar blocked out for the purposes of communication, and I'm available. We don't necessarily need the whole committee to get together.
Okay.
I can be available if it's an issue that Preston and Todd can weigh in on, then we're happy to do that. I think we're all just overloaded with meetings. So
Yes.
I think the ad hoc approach makes a lot of sense,
Okay.
especially because we're trying to reopen at the beginning of January.
Okay.
So that adds to our meeting lift.
That sounds great. As long as you keep us abreast of what is it that you're doing, so that we can continue to communicate to our to those that may have kids or those who may not have any kids, and those of us who are working on behalf of the students on different programs. So you know, have official meeting in January, but keep in touch with each other in the meanwhile. And I'm hoping that maybe we can work something out with the Wi-Fi before January, at
Mhm.
least to put things in order, and then we can kick it off for, you're planning to have a hybrid or totally open?
We won't be able, in this county, we can't just go straight to reopen. We have to go through a hybrid phase. So
Okay.
we are planning for hybrid in January. And we're shooting for students on January 5th. But prior to that, we expect to have small groups of students returning. We're doing sort of, I would say, beta testing with students who receive special education services. And the next group is hopefully English learners, seniors at risk of not graduating. So we have some target groups that have been identified by the CDE. And so we're working toward bringing those small groups back.
That sounds great. And so hopefully we might be able to get some of this Wi-Fi going even before January. So we can check on all those things. And we want to be as supportive as possible to the school system and the children, the students. Okay, anything else for January agenda then? I mean, we're all in agreement, right? We don't need to vote on this, or do we?
I believe we would, so I would second it.
Okay, so let's do a roll call. Irene?
School Board Member Addison,
Aye.
School Board Member Lands,
Aye.
Superintendent McLean,
Aye.
Mayor Walter,
Aye.
Assistant City Manager Thompson,
Aye.
City Manager Kelly,
Yes.
and Chair Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so we'll come up with the date down the road. And thank you, Betha, for being available to us. And I'm sure that we'll be contacting you regarding any of these issues that we want to work with.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So good to the order. I think we're clear here, ready to go have dinner. And if there's no more comments, I would go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Take it easy on these elections, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
you.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.